You totally caught me reading. Let's talk about that. Every book I read in 2024, that's what this video is. I read 19 books this year and I'm in the middle of a book. So I feel like I'm just gonna round it up to 20. Okay, so I guess we'll get started. I have the books over here and I have my iPad over here to pull up the image of a book for the ones that I don't own. And we're gonna go through the books I read this year. And maybe you'll hear some of them and be like, oh, I want to read that book. Some of the books at the beginning of the year, I honestly don't remember them at all because that was so long ago. Like that was like a year ago. But I'll try my best, and some of them I don't remember anything because I just didn't like them to remember it. Okay, the first book I read this year was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I got this at Value Village, and that's why I read it. I do really like the cover, but I do know it was like based off of a Wattpad story, I'm pretty sure. I apparently at the beginning of the year, I gave it 1 out of 5 stars, and I said that I was in like a reading slump. Like I was like trying to get into reading again, but I was in a reading slump, so like I was reading the book, but I didn't really retain any of the information. But I do remember she had like headaches or like some sort of health problem, and then there was like this boy she liked, and I remember throughout it there was like random pages where it was like a fairy tale, or like it was like talking in that word. I was so confused. I don't know. So starting off the year, I did not start strong. After that, I read Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I've read what is it called? The Heartstoppers graphic novels. I read those, and I watched the first season of Heartstoppers, and I remember Tori from it, and this book is following her. And at the beginning, when I read this, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I wrote down all the ratings that I gave it at the beginning of whenever I read it. I remember like there was moments where, because her character is very relatable for like teenage girls like going through it and stuff, and so I found it really relatable at parts. But there was like this blog, it's like based off of this Solitaire blog that's posted, and she's following it with this guy that's her like romantic interest. So it's like a YA romance book, sort of, kind of like Heartstoppers, just following a different character. Like if you like Heartstoppers, then you would 100% probably eat this book up. The next book I read is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I actually didn't read this book. I listened to it on audiobook. Right after I listened to it, I apparently gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I've read 2 other of his books, 3, or is this the 3rd? I read The House Across the Lake, Lock Every Door, and then this one. Oh, and I read Final Girls. This is not my favorite book by him. I really like The House Across the Lake and Lock Every Door. Those ones are just too good to beat. But I still, whenever he releases a book, I'm gonna read it. And there's some of his other books that I haven't read and I want to read. Ending the plot really got me. Like, I did not see that coming. I'm not gonna tell you what happened because like I'm not trying to spoil it for you. I would highly recommend the book, but if you've never read a book by him, definitely read his other ones. Check him out. After that, I read My Policeman by Bethan Roberts. After I read it, I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I did not know what this book was about going into it. The book is like about this girl and this guy, and they like get together and are married, but then she starts realizing that like there might be more going on between him and his best friend than what she thought. Like they might be more than just friends, even though she like tried to deny it. And it like goes through like different time periods, but the way it was written, like the choice to like describe the settings and just how it was like spoken, I really liked the author's voice. But it is one of those books where it's like kind of more mundane in a sense, like not saying like it was boring, but it has like that more slow going to like get to the point. Like it's not a very fast like YA type book. So I did get kind of bored at parts. I think it also would have helped if I actually read what the book was about. I tend to just go into books not reading what they're about. And I'll just be like, oh, the cover's cool, or be like, oh, I heard one person mention that it was good, and then I'll read it. So it just didn't speak to me personally. Then I was feeling like reading a cute romancy book, because I don't know why, but I don't really read that many cutesy romances books. And this year I read some cutesy romance books. So I read Beach Read by Emily Henry, because I feel like everybody's talking about this book, and I've never read an Emily Henry book, so I decided to read Beach Read. I gave it a 3 out of 5 after I read it. Once again, I did not read what this book was about going into it, and my mind, I was like, this is gonna be a romance book where they meet on the beach and they're like reading by each other, and it's gonna be so cutesy in the summer. And then to my surprise, they're not at the beach. They're at a lake house, and it's not the summery vibe I thought it would be. It was just nothing that I thought. So I think it was like my own personal thing that ruined it, because the book goes about the main girl, her father dies, and she has to like go to his house and like fix everything to like sell it. And then a guy next door who was her love interest, and they kind of start as like grumpy neighbors, because he's actually her rival. He used to be her rival when they were like in college, and he's like a very successful writer, and she's struggling to write her next book. And they make a bet where they like switch genres and see who can write a better book in the other person's genre. And with this like pity argument and challenge, they like get close, and you know, eventually it's a romance book. I'm not spoiling it. Like, you can understand what I'm saying when eventually. And I don't know, the characters, I just wasn't that intrigued. I don't know what was going on with me at the beginning of the year. Maybe I was just too stubborn on books, but everyone seems to enjoy this book. Maybe you will. I wasn't in the vibe. Then after that, I went on Spotify, and I was going on a walk, and instead of listening to music, I wanted to listen to an audiobook, and so I found this one called Finding Me by Viola Davis. This book I loved so much. I do not know anything about Viola Davis. I have not seen anything she is. This is like a memoir about her childhood and her journey into becoming an actress. Hence why her face is on the book, because it's about her. The moment I started the audiobook, it's her who reads it, which I think is even more interesting, because I'm literally hearing her story through her mouth. Like, she's literally speaking to it into my ears. And just from the start, like the opening line, like really grabbed my attention. It was so intriguing to like hear her story and everything she went through to get where she is, and how it wasn't like an easy ride. She like went to school and tried to figure out acting, and how like her family was kind of like, what do you mean you're gonna be an actress? And I know there's like a lot of celebrities who make memoirs and books, and this one's actually worth listening to or reading. Really grabbed my attention. I gave it like a 5 out of 5. Like, I really enjoyed. After that, around this time, the new book by Holly Jackson came out, The Reappearance of Rachel Price, and I went to the library. My library had it, and so I got it and I read it. I read this book so fastly. I love mystery thriller type books, and that's what this is. I love Holly Jackson's. I've read her Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, and then she came out with the 5 Survive. That one wasn't my favorite, but this was good. In the book, it starts out with a girl, and her mother went missing like years ago, and then one day she just shows up, and it's like going through trying to figure out where she's been for the past years and like what's happened because she's missed her daughter's whole childhood growing up. And the plot twist at the end, I did not see coming. I did not see it coming. When Holly Jackson comes out with a new book, I'm gonna be buying that or getting it from the library. I'm immediately gonna read it. After reading that beautiful book, I went and listened to another audiobook. I don't know what got into me with listening to audiobooks. I listened to the audiobook Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I just love the blue. I love the colors on this cover. That's what really made me want to read it. This is a memoir about Dolly Alderton. There was a lot she had to say that I think can be relatable to most women. But my issue is I'm only 18, and I think I would have gained more or enjoyed it more if I was in like my 20s to 30s, because it's like mainly her when she's in her 20s to 30s, because there's like things she was talking about that I haven't experienced or I don't understand. So I think like I can't give it a fair rating because I'm just not in that point in my life yet. But I do think it was beneficial to hear her stories about, because it's like her stories about like, they're crossed out on the cover right there, but it's her stories about love, parties, dates, friends, jobs, life. It was beneficial to hear, and I do think it's gave me knowledge that I can use for my future when I do turn 20 to 30. But if you're a teenager, I probably wouldn't recommend reading it. But the stories she did tell were very entertaining, and I was like, dang. Like, I was listening. Then I went to the library, and I got the book just last night by Mari McFarlane. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay, so this book, I was in a reading slump reading this. It deals with like a death and like grieving, and it was the middle of summer, and I just wasn't in that kind of vibe, kind of mood to read that kind of stuff. And so I just like spaced out reading the book. I feel like I would definitely need to reread this book. Like, of the clips I do remember, I feel like it was very impactful, but I just was not paying attention. I feel so bad when I like read a book and I just like don't give it my full attention, because like there's no way you're gonna like love or understand the book if you're not actually paying attention to the words on the paper. This next book I read, I only read it because it was on Kindle Prime. It's All the Little Raindrops by Mia Sheridan. The cover, the colors, the aesthetic of the cover really intrigued me. I just was not prepared for what the book was about. Once again, going into a book blind sometimes is not a smart idea, because it starts out with, it's about a kidnapping. These two teenagers get kidnapped together, and at the beginning it's all about like their experience at the beginning of them being kidnapped and trying to escape. And there was just like some very like disturbing scenes, which is like expected if like it's about kidnapping, like stuff's gonna happen. But I just was not mentally prepared to read some of the things. Once they escape, they do escape, because like the rest of the book is about like years in the future, and they're both trying to figure out what happened and who kidnapped them. This one also had a plot twist that I didn't see coming. I think it was just, for me, the kidnapping at the beginning was just like a bit intense, and during that time it was summer, so I had to break out this trilogy. I had to break up this trilogy, The Summer I Turned Pretty trilogy. So obviously I started out with the first book, The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I read this because people kept talking about the TV show, and I like started the first episode and I was kind of like, and I was like, maybe I'll read the books before I watch the show, which I never do. I just tend to watch the show or movie. But I read her To All the Boys I Loved Before series, and I watched the movies to that, and I really like those books. So I was like, I should read this then, because it's also by her. The first book was probably my favorite book because it's like the most summery, and this is when they're at the beach house. You probably know the plot, or you've heard of The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's about, this one I actually know the character's name. The other books I've forgotten characters' names. It's about Belly and these two brothers, Conrad and Jeremiah. And it's kind of like a romance triangle. And there's like a summer house and family and stuff. This one, like, putting up the plot and all the summary was very entertaining, and I really did enjoy the first book. But Cameron was in this book, and he was only in this book, and I liked him. And Belly kind of was like using him, I feel like. I don't know. I honestly don't really like Belly or Conrad or Jeremiah that much. Then I of course read the next book. It's Not Summer Without You. So Belly and Conrad get together in this book, and there's just a lot of drama. He like runs away, and it's like Belly and Jeremiah spending time together, and then you're kind of like, wait, maybe I like Jeremiah more. It's conflicting. I definitely liked this book better than this one, but they all kind of blend together. And then after I read that, I read the third one, We'll Always Have Summer. These book covers, they're just like so cute together. Like, I love the aesthetic. This book I absolutely hated. Worst book of the trilogy. Belly is only like 18 or 19, and she's like freshman year of college or something, and she's like, I'm getting married to Jeremiah. And Jeremiah's like, yeah, we're getting married. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're getting married? You guys are kids. And like, this book just frustrated me. The whole plot, everything Belly said, everything Jeremiah said. The only reasonable person in this book was Belly's mom, because she was like, no, I'm not supporting this wedding. Like, I'm not going to it. Like, you're not getting married. And then Belly was all upset at her, and it's like, your mom's speaking facts. Like, she's being reasonable. If you like this book, I just couldn't get over the wedding factor of it. I just couldn't. She has another trilogy too, I think. I'm pretty sure. It's called Burn, Burn, Burn. I have the book on my shelf over there, the first book of it. But I'm kind of scared to read because I didn't really like this trilogy as much. After being very frustrated at that last book, I read Dead End Girls. This was a free book I got from my library. They let me keep it. They did. So it's about Maud, I think that's her name. So Maud is planning on faking her own death and then running away and disappearing. And she had it all planned out, and she was gonna do it when her family's on vacation. But her cousin, her step cousin, a cousin she's not related to, which is important to remember later on during the book, because some stuff happens between them. Her cousin finds out about this plan and is like, I want in, because their family's dynamics are like terrible and terrifying. And so they fake their death and they run away. But then as they do that, a bunch of things happen and goes wrong, and it's like very dramatic, and there's like it's insane the things that happen. I like the book just because it kept me guessing. Like, there was so much random stuff. So if what I said sound interesting, you should read this. But wording, this book, I literally don't know what the author was thinking. She was going crazy, and low-key love that. And after reading that, I read kind of another insane plot of a book. I read Yellowface. I don't know how to pronounce the author's name, my bad. But this book I gave a 5 out of 5. I really liked, and it starts out with like an insane way to start a story, because this isn't really a spoiler, because this is like the first page, and it's like base what the story goes on. But it's about this girl and her friend, and her friend dies choking on pancakes because they were having a pancake eating competition. And then it follows this girl taking her friend's book she was gonna write, and she steals it and kind of rewrites it to her own and publishes it. And it goes through like the whole process of like publishing a book and everything you have to go through, and then her struggling with it because people start finding out, wait a second, this isn't your book, this sounds like this other girl. I really liked it. Once again, I listened to another audiobook. I listened to When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I listened to it because I was going on a 5-hour drive and then I had to drive back 5 hours, and I just needed something to keep me company on the road, so I thought picking a little rom-com book would be cute and keep my attention span. Plus, I just like the colors of this cover. The plot is a baker who bakes pie. That's the love interest guy, and the girl who is a pop star singer. So it's like big city famous girl, small town boy trope. There was some parts where I was cringing, and like I was like in the car driving, I was like, what did he just say, or what did she just say? Like, now that I'm rethinking about it, I kind of loved the book. I actually kind of liked it. Then I picked up another thriller mystery type book, One of Us is Lying. This I've heard about for so long. The author was trying to do a story like The Breakfast Club, but like murder mystery type thing. And it's like these 5 guys, each of like a different stereotype. You have the brain, the beauty, the criminal, the athlete, and the outcast. That's what the back says. Like, it literally says that. It's literally supposed to be like a take on The Breakfast Club with like the stereotypes of different characters you typically see in real life and in movies and books. At the beginning, one of them dies in the room. The way he dies is really stupid to me personally, like very silly. I didn't really like it that much. Like, I know there's another book I probably wouldn't continue the series. I just wasn't enjoying the stereotypes. Like, I don't regret reading, like it is like a nice read, but I wouldn't continue. Then I was at the library and I got this book. It's Taylor Jenkins Reid's book, Carrie Soto is Back. This like won some sort of like book award on Goodreads like years ago, but I just got around to reading it. I give this book a 5 out of 5. This is probably like one of my favorite books of the year. I recently read this, so like all the emotions and stuff is fresh in my mind, and it's my first book I read by her, and I've always heard people raving about her writing. It's about a retired tennis star who finds out that somebody is about to beat her record, and so she comes out of retirement. She's in like her late 30s, 35. I think she's 35. And she comes out of retirement to reclaim her title. So it's like a comeback story. And I've recently, for some reason, just been loving tennis. Like, after Challengers came out, like, I really want to play tennis. I just don't have anyone who wants to play tennis. But I've been like really into tennis related stuff, and this book like really describes tennis well, and like I learned so many new terms. But the way she wrote the book and like describing the tennis matches, like I was actually like it was like I was sitting watching an actual tennis match happening, but I was reading it, and you get to like hear her story of like how she got where she was, and then hear how she like trained to reclaim her title. And her character like grows throughout the book because she was kind of just like, oh, I'm the best, like I need to win. And you kind of like hate her at first in a sense because she is so good and she like just gets to it. Like, she doesn't like walk around certain things, like she'll just say what she feels, which like kind of like girl boss, like get it, but can be really easy to hate somebody who's just like good at everything, you know. But then as she's like training again, she like starts realizing like she doesn't have to take everything so serious to a point, and like it's okay to have open up to people. And I love the story so much, and I want to play tennis really bad right now. Out of this video, you need to read this book. This was like my most recent book that I fully read, and then there's a book I'm currently in the middle of. I wanted to read a cutesy winter romance, like Christmas romance, because it was the Christmas season. So I took one of my mom's books, and it's one of the Debbie Macomber Christmas books, and it was Dashing Through the Snow. This is the one I read by her. It's what I kind of expected, like one of her rom-com books to be. It's about this girl and a guy who fall in love. They fall in love. It's about them trying to get to Seattle for Christmas, but all the planes are booked, and so they both need to get there, and they end up sharing a car. Like, they both rent the last car and share it together to get to Seattle. And during the long car ride, and they're in it together, and they're like talking, and he kind of hates her. Because he's more of like a grumpy guy, and she's more very positive and joyful with life. And so at first he's kind of like very annoyed with her and kind of hates her, but then throughout the car ride they kind of like fall in love, you know. I feel like that was like a great story plot, but then randomly the story had like these FBI agents, and when the girl was at the airport, her name was on the no-fly list, and they were like, oh my goodness, she's this dangerous con criminal. And then the FBI are like going after them on the car ride as they're going to Seattle, but they have no idea that the FBI is like after them. That was just like really random, I feel like, to throw in. Like, I just kind of wanted a cutesy rom-com. I gave the book like a 2 out of 5. Like, it was a really quick, easy read, and I feel like if like you're just like taking a bath, it'd be a good book to just like read. Sometimes you just need like a mindless thing. You don't need something that's gonna like change your life reading. And now to the book that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I'm on page like 150. I'm not even halfway through. This book's like 400 pages long. But I've read his other book, Anxious People, and I really like that book, so that's why I was like, I'm gonna read this one. I also found it at Goodwill. I thrift most of my books, so the books that I read are mainly just like whatever I find at the thrift store. It's not, I don't really go out of my way, like go to Barnes & Noble to buy a book, because if I can thrift it, it's cheaper. It's about this small town, Beartown, and there's not much to the town, but they have like this junior hockey team, and it's like the final between them and another school, and if the Beartown team wins it, then they're like will be known for something, and their town will actually be exciting and have like a legacy. And so like a lot is like riding on this game, and I haven't gotten, I think I'm like in the middle of the game, or like gotten to when they're like actually playing the game, because at the beginning it like tells the backstory of the town and the characters. But so far there's a lot of characters, and I'm a little lost. Like, there's so much information that gets put into this book. In each chapter is kind of switching to like different stories and different people, and I'm getting a little lost. This is not a mindless read. Like, you need to be paying attention to read it. I need to like finish it to like actually give like a full review on it, but so far I'm really like, I'm enjoying it, and I'm finding the hockey really interesting. I've never played hockey. I don't know how to. I barely know how to skate, so yeah. So I read 20 books in 2024, which is insane because I used to not read a single book. Like, I hated reading, and then only like the past few years I've started reading, like actually reading and enjoying it. Hopefully this video was informative for some of the books. I'm really bad at explaining books, I just realized. Don't know if this is my thing, but I've read books and I just wanted to share what I felt about these books. I just needed to rant to somebody about them. Let me know how many books you read or what your favorite book was. I'm always open to new book recommendations. Have fun reading, and bye!